From the courtroom to the cabinet room, America's power structures are being tested like never before. In one corner, the credibility of the Justice Department under President Trump faces intense scrutiny from judges, raising alarm at the administration's grip on the rule of law. On the other, Elon Musk's turbulent Washington breakdown, the twin crises reshaping American presidency, and Silicon Valley's most ambitious disruptor. I'm Ann Morrissey. Let's get in focus. According to Politico, the Department of Justice, once one of the most trusted legal institutions in America, is now facing harsh criticism from the very judges it stands before. Since President Donald Trump's return to office, federal courts across the country have accused the DOJ of dishonesty, evasiveness, and politically motivated legal arguments. In multiple high-profile cases, from deportation under the Alien Enemies Act to the controversial firing of federal employees, judges have openly questioned the administration's integrity. The Supreme Court has also signaled unease, issuing late-night emergency orders and demanding accountability in cases like Kilmar, Abrego, or Garcia's, yet the administration continues to test the limits of executive power. With a pending ruling on nationwide injunctions that could affect everything from birthright citizenship to immigration enforcement, the DOJ's credibility and the court's willingness to push back are about to face a historic test. Joining us now from Washington is Ginger Chapman, a lawyer and political analyst. Welcome, Ms. Chapman. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me today.
First, let's start off asking, federal judges across the country are discussing the DOJ as being dishonest. How unusual is this level of pushback or judicial pushback?
Yes, well, what we are seeing today in America is a battle between the Article 2 executive branch and the Article 3 judiciary branch. This battle has been a long time coming. The Trump administration and indeed many of the American people have seen the courts, they're perceived of as overstepping their authority and acting beyond their jurisdiction. You mentioned the district courts. This has become an issue of the utmost importance because what we are seeing is Trump's strategy to accomplish his campaign goals is to push forward as fast and hard as he can, and he is challenging the courts. At the same time, we are seeing the Democratic Party resist Trump through the courts, and their strategy is to get favorable judges and favorable courts in blue states to stop and issue national injunctions against Trump's policies he's trying to carry out. So, for example, as you mentioned, the Alien Enemies Act, the Birthright Citizenship, these and many other important issues have been before the district courts, and they are able to stop Trump's agenda in its tracks by issuing nationwide injunctions against any act that Trump is trying to carry out. Mm-hmm. Now, there are over 600 district court judges in the United States, so they can effectively stop Trump for years, up to 3 years, while all of these challenges play out in court. Even if Trump ultimately wins, it could be years from now. And we are seeing the people start pushing the legislature, which has authority under Article 1 of the Constitution. People are pushing the legislature to rein in the courts because the only court authorized under our Constitution is the Supreme Court, and the legislature actually has authority over all the other courts to expressly curb their power and expressly limit the district court jurisdiction to within only their district and not have the ability to issue nationwide injunctions. So this battle is going to play out. It's going to become more intense next week, especially May 9th, the case before the Supreme Court. And the voters are going to try to push the legislature to take a more active hand in reining in the courts. So we are essentially seeing a battle under our Constitution between the Article 3 judiciary and the Article 2 executive branch of the president. And now the legislature under Article 1 is going to have to jump in to rein in or to actually get the courts to comply with the Constitution.
Now, as you said there, the executive body is at odds with the judicial body in the United States. Now, with the Gilmore Abrego Garcia case, the DOJ's defiance of court orders raised a lot of eyebrows. What sort of implications or legal implications may this behavior have?
Well, one of the things we saw during the Biden administration was Biden would defy court orders and his administration would press on with little consequence. The Trump administration saw that, and initially their tactic was to defy the court orders, or if they couldn't use the Alien Enemies Act, to use a different act. However, this is not a successful strategy. Defying the court orders will ultimately make Trump look lawless rather than making the judiciary look lawless. And the American people, they support Trump. His supporters support him strongly. However, ultimately, he is the president, and the American voters want our officials to follow the Constitution. They do not like the thought of Trump going outside of the law to defy the courts. They want to see the system play out.
Which kind of brings on the next topic here, Ginger. I mean, like you talked about, the Constitution and the significance of having these different checks and balances to maintain a proper political democratic system in the United States. If the executive body continues to defy these court orders, what are the consequences of this when it comes to the checks and balances?
Well, personally, I do not believe the Trump administration will continue to defy the court orders. That seems like a strategy that was creating more conflict and was actually delaying his ability to carry out his deportations or his changes to the law. So it seems like he has changed strategy. And for example, we saw yesterday that Stephen Miller, Trump's spokesman, and Trump may promote him to national security advisor, but we saw Stephen Miller just filed a lawsuit against Chief Justice John Roberts of the Supreme Court and the administrator of the U.S. court system. Steve Miller's lawsuit accuses Chief Justice Roberts of engaging in lawfare against conservative judges and is trying to use this lawsuit against the Supreme Court, essentially Chief Justice Roberts and his administrator. They are now using lawfare against the judges and against the Democratic groups. So we've seen Trump change his strategy. Defying the court orders does not make him, defying court orders makes him less popular. So it seems like he is embarking on an aggressive lawfare strategy. He is now going to start suing other groups, much like he has been sued. Now, other information that is coming out, especially about some of the Supreme Court justices, perhaps Amy Coney Barrett, but more importantly, Chief Justice John Roberts. Many Republicans for many years suspected that he was compromised in some way. They were looking for any indication he was involved with Jeffrey Epstein. As it turns out, nothing like that appears to have been happening. Justice Roberts appears to have very close ties with Norm Eisen and has worked with attorney Norm Eisen on many big legal projects. And Norm Eisen is viewed by Republicans as the Democrats' top attack lawyer. So, as Republicans are investigating the Chief Justices to find weaknesses, to find areas they're compromised, it looks as though Trump's strategy is going to adopt more of the Democrat strategies, go after the judges individually to see if they're compromised, and also engaging in lawfare against individuals and against groups. We're seeing this with the court case against the New York Attorney General, Letitia James. She is famous for going after Trump using lawfare. Now it appears the tables are turned. Trump and the Department of Justice is now investigating Attorney Letitia James on charges that she herself engaged in mortgage fraud. So we are seeing Trump, unlike his first term, where he tried to comply and play nice and play along, we are seeing now in his second term, Trump is aggressively pursuing his perceived political opponents, going after them, and as well as taking a more aggressive stance and pursuing cases more directly to the Supreme Court. And this upcoming week is going to be very dispositive with the cases regarding limiting the authority of district court judges, birthright citizenship, and deportation. This is going to be a very big week legally for America.
Okay, now can we talk a bit about Pam Bondi's leadership of the DOJ? It has come under fire for reshaping internal divisions. Do you think that the restructuring weakened the institution?
Yes. Well, Pam Bondi, there are many in Washington that have mixed feelings about Pam Bondi. Initially, Matt Gaetz was nominated for this position. He is viewed as a no-nonsense attack dog. Pam Bondi is a very highly competent attorney. However, the Republicans are unhappy with her. They feel she has not been aggressive, and she has allowed the FBI to play with her and toy with her. They have not complied with any of her requests. And now we are seeing news that the long-awaited Epstein files that Trump campaigned on releasing on day one, we have not seen the Epstein files. Now there's word that the FBI may have destroyed the files while stalling. So what we are seeing is the administrative agencies are in a civil war against the Trump directors and high-level officials. In particular, the FBI has long been viewed with suspicion by the American people. They're viewed as not just incompetent in stopping events or attacks that they have knowledge of, but the FBI is going after American citizens. The FBI is going after parents who complain at school board meetings. The FBI is going after the J6, or people who are perceived of as overly supportive of Republicans and conservatism. So the FBI is under a lot of scrutiny right now. They are not viewed favorably. Pam Bondi is viewed as incompetent, perhaps, for not being strong enough to put her foot down and demand the FBI comply with Republican requests for information. And we have not seen Pam Bondi pursue any significant legal court challenges to the FBI rogue actors who are openly and consistently stalling and defying Trump's.
This goes back to the idea of checks and balances. Like, these different bodies are not complying with, the rule of law.
Yes, and America is suffering an institutional crisis. This is not just our judiciary, which is viewed as compromised and politicized. We are seeing our legislature, the polls, the American people's approval of our Congress is in the teens, polling 17, 20%. The American people view that Congress, many members of Congress are bought and paid for by wealthy lobbyists and no longer work for the American people. We view our healthcare system as compromised after the events of COVID. There's a lack of trust in our healthcare system. For example, the CDC and Fauci, that destroyed faith in our healthcare system and our legal system, our law enforcement system. So Americans right now have very little faith in our institutions.
Yes.
We are seeing this play out in anger on the streets. We are seeing more protests. And indeed, many Americans, up until Trump won the election, many Americans believed we would be in a civil war by the end of 2025. When Trump was elected.
I'm sorry, I have to cut you off there because we're out of time, but if you could leave us like one final word here.
Well, thank you so much for having me today. And what is happening in America is very important. We are seeing the breakdown of American institutions. This is playing out in our courts and in our Congress and the presidency. However, America is on a knife's edge. Our economy and our institutions are all going through a restructuring, and this year is going to be very important to see what happens.
Okay, thank you so much, Ginger Chapman, for your detailed analysis. Thank you for joining us. As federal judges move to redefine cases ruled by ruling, but while Trump's legal agenda is colliding with the courts, Elon Musk's bureaucratic revolution is unraveling in the halls of government. The billionaire disruptor is heading for the exit, leaving behind political fallout and a cloud over his once dominant brand. As reported by the Financial Times, what started with bold promises and a chainsaw metaphor is now ending in embarrassment. Elon Musk's time in Washington as head of the Department of Government Efficiency, an initiative he once promised would save $2 trillion, has instead yielded operational chaos, frustrated federal employees, and minimal fiscal results. Doge experiment, formed by executive order rather than legislation, failed to uncover corruption, but succeeded in alienating both allies and the public. Yet Musk might still walk away richer. His proximity to the Trump administration places SpaceX in line for billions of defense contracts through the president's new Golden Dome missile defense initiative. At the same time, Tesla's global image has taken a hit. Mocked in Europe, boycotted in parts of the US, and reeling from association with far-right content on Musk's social platform X. The fallout from Musk's Washington gamble may last for longer than his brief political tenure. Joining us now is Nora Lee Knutson, a Republican commentator and policy analyst. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Nora. How would you characterize Musk's Doge experiment? Is it bold disruption or just reckless overreach?
I think, firstly, we should characterize Trump as the real disruptor that has come into politics to challenge the status quo. Now, he's coming in with a large trade deficit, with a large government deficit of $36 billion. His priority was to cut waste. And there's only one way to do that, which is to immediately look at all the agencies that we have. And originally, when the United States was formed, we had 4 agencies. We now have 400 agencies. So he hired Elon Musk to come in, and he smashed that. It would be natural for everybody to resist because, as we know, it's our human nature. We do not like change. and there's a lot of pain involved in the change. But I would disagree with your characterization that it's been a failure, because in fact, in only 100 days, Elon Musk has already saved.
There's a big difference.
$160 billion, firstly, is not to be scoffed at.
Yes,
I think
definitely.
what's important here is he's discovered in the Department of Education, there was rife fraud. There were there was spending going in for Caesar's Palace in Vegas, renting out stadiums, things that have nothing to do with the Department of Education. They implemented one simple change, which was they would have to first put in receipts before drawing down the money. And already immediately you've seen a decrease in these terrible expenses going through that have nothing to do with it. Secondly, they've seen fraud in people receiving loans that don't even exist anymore. People who are 150 years old. Again, another case of fraud. We see $20 million going to Sesame Street in Iraq. Well, I think Sesame Street is a great program. American taxpayers will not be happy that their hard-earned income and taxpayer dollars are being spent for Sesame Street overseas. And this is just a few examples of the many instances where he's uncovered fraud. I think what you will see is that as the Doge program continues, yes, it's ruffling a lot of feathers, but they will continue to unearth more fraud, and this will scare people from using it to hide contracts and contractors who are just getting free money from US taxpayers.
So your belief here is that the Doge experiment will continue on and it won't actually collapse, as you know some commentators believe is going to happen?
I think there will be enduring change, and I think there will be enduring savings. And I must say, living in London, what I see over here is that the European Union is frightened of a similar type of Doge program happening in Brussels, where unelected officials also have lavish expenditures.
Mm-hmm. Well, Doge, like you said, is based on the idea of creating some sort of government efficiency in addition to finding, fraudulent transactions and so forth. Now, Musk also, people are obviously criticizing him over this, but he's also
Yes.
benefiting from, maybe benefits to SpaceX from the Golden Dome Defense Project. Do you see this as a form of reward for loyalty or a merit-based win, or is this something that's, raised?
It was always planned that Elon would step away because he still has all of his other important businesses that he's running. And we know that he's taken a hit to his businesses as a result of being involved with all of this drastic transformation and disruption that's happening. SpaceX is a huge company, and there are very few companies that would be up to win any contracts. And Elon Musk, being the richest man in the world, because of his brilliance, because of his ability to think outside of the box, it's not surprising that one of his companies would be up for a potential contract.
Okay, like you said, some of his businesses have taken a hit, and this is mainly due to his alignment or political alignments. Do you think his stint in Washington has permanently damaged his companies like Tesla?
I don't believe his stint in Washington has permanently damaged his companies. Not at all. And in fact, I think he probably has a better understanding of how, toxic governments can be when they're allowed to just get entrenched and not have anybody challenge them. I think Elon Musk is somebody who's been through all sorts of highs and lows, and he is the kind of person who always rises up again. So I have no doubt that he will continue to be successful in all that he endeavors. I think it's through his political meddling, particularly in European politics, that he's polarized a lot of people, particularly around Tesla.
Well, we've also seen Musk clash with senior Trump officials very publicly. How does this reflect the administration's management culture?
I apologize. I didn't hear the question. Will you repeat it?
I'm asking you about, the very public clashes between Musk and senior Trump officials.
Yes.
How does this reflect the administration's management culture?
Look, we believe in freedom of speech in America. Trump believes in freedom of speech. So they are all individuals. They're allowed to have their differences of opinions. And I personally think it's important that it gets expressed. Not everything that every member of Trump's administration does is going to be correct. And there should be challenges, and it should be healthy to have those challenges.
But shouldn't it have been like in closed doors rather than being very public? This causes, I suppose, a bit of a stir, doesn't it?
I always like to focus on the substance and what people are trying to get at versus the form and the way they go about it. And I know as individuals or as journalists, people love to get caught up in what was said or how it was said instead of focusing on what is the intent. I know Musk has been outspoken on the trade wars. He would like to see a free trade zone with the European Union. And it's important that he be able to express those opinions as policy is being shaped as we speak. So, no, they won't always agree. And I think it's wonderful that this is probably one of the most transparent governments that we've had in a very long time.
Okay, thank you, Nora D. Knudsen. Thank you for joining us. And as Musk departs Washington, what remains is not a revolution in government, but a mirror reflecting the high cost of ambition unchecked by results. Two powerful names, two unraveling institutions, and as Trump's DOJ faces the court and Musk's political venture collapses under his own hype, we are reminded that in America, power still answers to law, consequences, and public scrutiny. Let's keep the world in focus. Until next time, thank you for watching.